Hello friends and fellow gamers, MKxJUMP here, and this week we have a brand new event for Idle Heroes. It is the much awaited Soul Awakening session where you can use your contract story gems to awaken heroes and get some nice rewards. Free-to-play players have a bit of a humdrum about this week's event, and we'll look more at that in a second, as DHGames have made a step backwards rather than forwards with this event, which has annoyed a lot of people. However, they have added some extra rewards in here too, so it's not all that bad, so we'll be breaking that all down today. Before we do that though, let me remind you about Patreon. It's a way you can support my channel financially and in return get yourself some perks in our Discord server. If you want to join us for account reviews on a Tuesday, that's one of the perks you can do. You can sign up on a Tuesday and you can get your account checked out by me. If that's something you're interested in, go hit the link up there in the top corner of the screen, and a shout out goes to this week's new patron, Joseph Buckus. So if you want to be like him, go ahead and check it out, and hopefully I'll see you on a Tuesday. Anyway folks, let's go ahead and check out this week's event for Idle Heroes. So this week we have Imp's Adventure and Campaign Loot Drops, so make sure you're grabbing this week's rewards as you'll get yourself 100 creamy avocados and 4 dice every day for logging in, so make sure you grab all of that. Now the cool events this week, it tops off with a Soul Awakening session, which, wow, I can't believe it already, the top 10 idlers across the servers have already managed to get over 20,000 points between them, which means they will be getting themselves an S tier each. Now on top of that, the top 20 will get themselves an A+, 50 will get an A, 100 get an A-, top 300 get a B+, top 1000 get a B, and everybody else is going to get a B-. And this has upset a lot of people about this Soul Awakening session, because in the past DHGames gave us a B stone, and then in the event after that they gave us a B+. So a lot of people were really hoping and excited that free-to-play players would continuously get B+ stones from this event. It seems that DHGames have reversed that decision and realized what such a crazy impact it had giving lots of B+ to free-to-play players had, but it was more Black Friday that had that effect. It was only when the Soul Awakening session came immediately after Black Friday around Christmas, and it just resulted in the auction house completely bottoming out. If you didn't remember that time, well, you were able to buy very cheap copies of pretty much any A tier you wanted, and hero prices just plummeted because there were just so many. Supply went through the roof, and therefore, of course, when supply increases, prices go down. The only issue we have then, however, is that now, as a result, we're probably only ever going to get B- from Soul Awakening sessions, but for those of you that have flown close to the sun and received a B or a B+ in the past, it's going to leave you a little bit salty, because DHGames have moved their rewards in a backwards direction rather than forwards, which is a bit annoying, because for idle games, you'd like to think events progressively improve the rewards they get you as they power creep and release new stuff, and considering giant killers are often gatekeeping a lot of super late content, it would be nice for free-to-play players to get access to B+ stones to increase their chances of high rolling an A tier. All that said though, sadly, B- is the best we can do, but does that mean it's worth going into this Soul Awakening session? Well, let's take a look at the rewards we get. Every single time you awaken a hero this week, you're going to get a number of points depending on the level of the awaken, and that's what all that point stuff for the session was all about. So obviously, the better the awaken, the more points you receive. On average, you get about 6 points per hero you awaken, and then of course you can retire them and awaken some more. So it will require you to have about 3,500 contract story gems to get up to 300 points here, and if you're a budget player, you shouldn't really be pushing for 600, and free-to-play players really try to get their Destiny materials when they're available as top rewards in certain events like Heroic Summons, or events that need like Prophet Orbs, but more importantly, the way you'll typically pick these up is by defeating the bosses in Void Campaign. So I wouldn't go pushing an extra 300 points just to get to 600. I'd rather just do 2 separate sessions and get each of them to 300 points. That, in my opinion, is better, because of course you're able to get yourself Cause of Origin and Sublimation, which are extremely valuable, and on top of that, you can also, this time round now, get yourselves either Stellar Shards or Crystals of Transcendence. So it's definitely the Stellar Shards you should be choosing, and that's a great pickup at 200 points, and at 150 you can even get yourself 45,000 sublimation as well, which is really, really nice. So that chest even adds more to the sublimation you can receive. At 100, you're getting an artifact. So again, more great rewards for free-to-play players, even budget players as well. And then, of course, for 80 and below, you're getting hero copy chests, which will get you anything you may need for copies of heroes that are transcendent. Or even in this eminent chest, you can grab anybody you want. So with all that said, I definitely think if you can get to 300 points, if you've got 3,500 contract story gems, absolutely go after this, because in my opinion, that's going to to be the best way you can get rewards this week. Not forgetting to mention when the Soul Awakening session wraps up, you will manage to get yourself a B- stone. But again, it's not the B or B+ we've expected, and some people may choose not to go in on this just because they may hope for a B or a B+, but in my opinion, that's pure copium. I don't think DHGames are ever going to give us Bs or B+ anytime soon, so I think regardless of the B-, it's worth going after this. Value packages are kind of rubbish. They're just giving you gems and ordinary dice, so this is a skip in my opinion, but we do have Imp's Adventure, of course, and that's just going to get you the usual rewards where you get some avocados, which are the campaign loot drop currency, and your usual stuff for each tier. The way this works, for those of you that don't know, is you roll the dice, the imp will move, and he will land on a square and level that square up. Every time he passes over a starry mushroom, he will gain stars equal to the small number in the corner, and every time you land on that hut, it will level up all the way up to level 3, where it finally gives 5 stars every time you pass over it. So that's really, really nice. You want to be using your dice throughout the week, and the goal is to get a lucky dice from the lucky hut, and therefore when you're close to the lucky hut within 6, you can use the lucky dice and jump back onto the lucky hut, and then you can just go ahead and keep farming lucky dice over and over again to cut this corner off repeatedly, making more progress for less dice. Shelter mission is here, and that's really important that you get these first 4 heroes, as they're going to get you 5 dice each and a copy of themselves, which is nice, and armor, which you can use if you're resonating armor, because you can just destroy 4-star armor to get resonance materials. More importantly, though, you will be needing to use 4 4-stars to do this, and finally they've fixed the Nosuke and made it 4 rangers for the Fortress faction rather than 4 warriors or mages or whatever it was last time. Betty's here for Shadow, you'll need mages for her. We've got Geista, we'll need assassins for him, and Delacium is fixed. It doesn't necessarily need rangers or warriors or whatever it was last time, it's now finally mages, which is really good. So that's a relief at last. Definitely go ahead and do this if you can. Having the 4 stars should be doable for most established players, and yeah, picking up these heroes and getting those dice is really important. Soul Awakening offers, we've already talked about these. Make sure you go in this if you can and get to 300 points. And of course, a soul contract will help that happen, as you can destroy 6 stars in each of the factions to get yourself 100 contract story gems. Bear in mind that's a one-time thing, but it's definitely worth it, especially for free-to-play players, as this is one of the rare ways you can get contract story gems reliably. On top of that, we have a Starlight Melody, which is giving you additional rewards if you do ordinary dice and if you consume the event items this week. Now, that's going to be a bit of a pain, as that's not going to get you too much, and there's nothing rewarding you for doing Awaken, so that's kind of a good thing if you did want to skip this session. But of course, it means a lot of people probably aren't going to get that far in this. But if you do, you do get some Master's Toolboxes, you are going to get yourself Stellar Shards, and for those of you that are crazy and want to times this by 4, you can go in the Luck Relay, max this out for $50, and it will 4 times whatever you pick up here, and those 4 times rewards will get you even more Stellar Shards. If you totally max this and get to 1,000 points, you can in theory get 1 million Stellar Shards from this, which is nice, but if you're a later game player who's just looking to maximize their progress in the late game, I would not really go after this relay, because you're not getting any Destiny materials for doing so, and I'd rather save that $50 for an event that does give you Destiny materials, kind of like the one we had last week. So if that's the kind of stuff you're chasing, if you're like me, then it's much better to go ahead and skip this. If you're just a mid-spender that just wants to make steady progress in the game, I suppose you can invest in this and buy it, as it does contain a fair number of treasure coupons, gems, and ordinary dice to help you make progress. Even at this point, you're getting 10 cores of Transcendence, which is nice. But this, I would argue, is one of the weaker relays in the game and is most easiest to skip. So if you don't want this, you can pass on it. In fact, it's just an Imp's Adventure pack in disguise. That's the best way you can think about this. It is just the normal $50 Imp's Adventure pack broken down and hidden inside a relay to make it seem like better value. So that's everything for this week, a fairly chill event, and I think the most exciting part about it is, of course, the Soul Awakening session. If you're lucky enough to high roll an A tier this week, let me know. I'm sure there's going to be at least one free-to-play player out there that does manage that, and that definitely transforms the power level of your account. Also, we're hoping that with all the awakening that's going on, especially when they release 100 A- stones or better to the player base, these big fat juicy whales that are going and chasing all that, hopefully then we shall see the auction house get a little bit cheaper for players that are looking to buy their much desired A tiers. And in fact, it would just be nice to see some good copies enter the auction house. If I filter by S, for example, there's really not that many floating around. Take a look at Alamak. His price is quite nice, down at 19,000, which isn't bad, but I think a lot of this might even just be panic selling because the Gala's come out, so that could be one thing here. That's definitely more Alamax than I've seen previously. If you take a look at Vulcans, he's probably pretty saturated right now, and yeah, a lot of this could just be people panic selling because they expect the the auction house is going to drop in price. And that's also another funny thing that happens whenever a session comes along. We just see the auction house just flood up with people who are panic selling because they want to try and get a cheap deal next week. The issue is they've sold too late. They really should have sold a week ago or 2 weeks ago to really make the most out of this. And hopefully if you're in the business of buying something from the auction house, you can pick something up pretty nice. Let's move on to next week's event then, and we have the Hero Lottery, which is pretty much just a big old summon event, which is nice. And more importantly, we're going to see a new Transcendence hero, and that's going to be Luna. Luna, the Fortress Assassin that came out last month, is going to become a Transcendence hero. Hopefully she's going to be pretty good. If you're interested in her, hit that subscribe button, as I will be taking a look at her next week. And we have a Hero Exchange event, which is offering Seer and Azrael. That's a really weird pairing. I guess the Seer is just a novelty there, because of course Sword Flash is probably going to be completely eclipsed by Luna. Not to mention Sword Flash has been completely pushed out the meta anyway, but it would be really cool to see if we get a good Fortress Assassin like Luna, who is basically a revamped version of Sword Flash. It would be cool if that's the case. But yeah, next week does look like it's going to be a pretty fun event. If you've got Heroic Scrolls saved up, maybe you can go in on this one and get something nice, or maybe it's just worth saving for Anniversary, which is in June, as that's only a few months away now. And this, of course, is going to be the last good Heroic Summons event before Anniversary. So if you're sitting on a big pile of scrolls and you're not sure whether you should go for this, well, we'll talk more about that next week, so don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, folks, that's all for this week's event. Hopefully you managed to pick something up good. And of course, again, guys, if you do manage to pull an A-tier hero and you're free to play, go ahead and brag it in the comment section. It's always nice to see your good luck. Anyway, folks, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Have an amazing week. And of course, happy idling.